So I have a prayer to help us open the annual meeting. Let's open our hearts for prayer. God, you are the source of all that is good. You sent us Jesus to help us know that you love us and that you want only good things for us. We care for this, your church, as a means of sharing that good news and showing mercy and kindness and working for justice in the world. God, we're grateful to be part of a wider church family that extends across the world. Guide us as we look for the best ways to bring your message and do your work in this place and amongst our neighbors. We pray as followers of the Jesus way. Amen.
Here at Harrow United, before our annual meeting, we take a moment to remember those of our church family and community who have passed before us. And this morning, we will take a moment of silence. Yvonne Beetham, Cynthia Brimner, Barbara A. Brookbanks, Harold Albert Catherwood, Annette Louise Dufour, Ruby Maxine Greenham Garden, Marion Agnes Lee, Esther Elaine Lonsberry, Raymond Lloyd McLaughlin, Marie Rena Annette Mueller, Jean Miles, Marion Ruth Stouffer, Terrence Hartley Wright. Let us remember these people. Amen.
So in order to have our meeting, we need a chairperson and a secretary. So I've been asked to ask you to nominate somebody from the floor to chair the meeting, at this meeting and any other congregational meetings you have to have this year. So we need a chairperson and a secretary. So Bill nominates Eleanor Walker as chair. Any further nominations for chair? Eleanor, come on up and take over. And while you're walking up, any nominations for the position of secretary? You nominate Anita Gorick. Anita's too humble to take. Okay. So do you want to amend your nomination? And to say Kathy George. So Kathy George is nominated. Are there any competing nominations for secretary? Congratulations, Kathy.
Just before we get started, we do have an attendance sheet, I believe, that Lorene began to pass around. And if you would all sign it, that would be great. We have copies of the annual yearbook at the back. If you have not received one and need one, would you please raise your hand and the ushers can make sure you get them. Thank you. We need a motion brought forward that all members and adherents in attendance be eligible to speak to and vote on any motions presented at today's meeting. Lorene has moved that motion. I need someone to second it. Thank you, Jillian. Discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. I need a motion, I think this is right, to approve 2018 annual minutes, pages 1 to 3 of the annual report. That was the minutes from last year's meeting. I need a motion. I need, Leslie, thank you. I need someone to second that motion. Greg Harrison, thank you. All those in favor, discussion? Any discussion on the minutes? Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Thank you. I'm going to call on now today there are groups, each one of the committees will be making a short presentation, and the first one is Ministry and Personnel. Eric Colnut, do you have any report? Okay, he's referring you to pages, it is Ministry and Personnel is in your, not sure what page it's, page 7. And you can read all about it there. So I need Eric to make a motion. On page 7 of 2018. Need someone to second that motion. Gloria Gorick, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. The trustees report. Doug Balsley. Pardon me. Beth Graham, would you move that motion, please? So Beth has moved that we accept the report on page 7. I need someone to second it. Walter McLean, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. We had the report of the worship committee in the puppet play this morning. Jillian, I'm going to call on you for that report.
The pages, there was a correction to be made, thank you. Under members removed by request, there's a spelling error there. It says Time Shepley, it should be Tim Shepley, right at the bottom of page 9 there. Oh, so the burials 2018 should be members removed by death. And members removed by death heading should be burials, correct? Okay.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that.
I also noticed, sorry, I should have brought this up earlier, that under the Worship and Membership Committee, you actually have Judy Calhoun, and I don't believe she is on the Worship Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, I move pages 8 to 12 to be accepted.
Any seconder for that? Someone to second that motion? Carol Karshnoff, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Report of the congregational life and work. Laura George.
My report's pretty straightforward, and I would like to thank all the little facets of my committee who submitted their reports as well. The nursery, Sunday school, all those people supported congregational life this year, and I really appreciate that. I would say my report's pretty much self-explanatory. I will also be stepping down as chair of congregational life and work this year, so I just wanted to thank my committee and everybody who supported all of our crazy ideas. It was really made my time at congregational life and work really great, so I move my report.
Laura has moved the report. I need someone to second it. Jeff Chickas has seconded. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Discussion? Bill? Thank you. All those in favor of receiving that report? Thank you. Report of the Outreach Committee. We have not had, there's nothing on, I don't think. We did not have a chair of outreach this year, so there were many people that have jumped in to help with that, including Lorene in the office, and I thank her for that, bringing to our attention that we needed to look after this and this. But we do have a large people that work with the outreach committee, and Carol Karshinoff has been kind enough to step forward this morning and will be looking after that report. So I'm going to call on Carol now.
The Outreach Ministry at Harrow United is the church at work in God's name and in the wider world. As humble disciples, we are encouraged to reach out to think about others. We have a number of outreach services and programs that function under the outreach umbrella. This morning, we have a number of people who represent each of these services and programs. As the congregation, we have been very blessed with the many gifts that you have given to all these outreach projects. Each person will come up and give a few words about what they represent. Pat Brookbank, Janet Woodbridge, Gloria Gorick, Beth Graham, Dennis Graham, Liz Chillo, Leslie Balsilli.
I just like being first. Besides, I can't stand not being at a microphone. Oh, my bag. They didn't give me a bag.
You didn't get a bag.
Somewhere I got a bag. Anyway, that's okay. I'm not the bag lady. And before I begin my report, because I do, thank you. Before I begin my report, just a couple of things I'd like to say, and nobody will object, will they? Thank you. First of all, going back about a year ago, when Frank moved on to Windsor, we were wondering, what are we going to do? This got nothing to do with outreach, but it has everything to do with one other thing. So anyway, he left. And the next week after, if not the following week after, there was a presentation put on by the worship committee that was about chicken soup for the soul by three of our members of our congregation. They know who they are. And I was just going through the audiovisual hits on the website. The most watched video of the whole year, and it's buried somewhere in somebody's report, was Chicken Soup for the Soul, with over 700 hits for the year. And I thought that was amazing, because we were wondering, how are we going to survive without a minister? And the answer, very well. However, I can add one thing, and now even better. Yes, we're happy. Yeah, chicken soup, eventually it's like cabbage soup. You eventually get sick of it. Okay. The second thing I'd like to mention is that the yearbook, because if you're like me, sometimes you forget things. And so yesterday I posted the yearbook on the website. So anytime you want to look at it for this year or the previous yearbooks, they're all on the website, and they will always be on the website. So you don't need to say, well, I don't know where it is. I can't find it. It's on the website. And lastly is my report. It's amazing to think in outreach that we have given so much. So what I thought, back in 2015, we took on a task of working with a refugee family, not knowing who they would be or what country they're from. And eventually it all came together. And we knew one of the biggest problems we were going to have in the days when we needed to replace a roof and everything else that seemed to be weighing upon us, we needed a ton of money. And you know what? We got that ton of money. And not only did we get that ton of money, we got more than that ton of money. Because I can still remember last year, the givings were up. The amount of money given to outreach were up. M&S was up, kind of up. And it was just an amazing thing to see. It was a huge undertaking. And I'm just so proud of everybody. Some people gave just a little time when they had it. Some people gave a lot of time, but we got it done. Now, is it perfect? No. It's just like the example I've said to other people. When you raise a child and off they go, they get married, off they go. It doesn't end there. And that's same with our refugee family. They've gone. They've been raised. Our financial obligations are finished, but it doesn't end there. There is bound to be road bumps that lie ahead, and we may be talking to you about it again sometime. I hope not, but that's just part of life. Is that we're happy for them. They have found a place in Canada, and we look forward to them having a very good future with us in Canada. The rest of my report is on page 21. Are there any questions?
I'll go ahead while we're waiting for a hand mic. And I love it when Denny gets emotional because I know it's coming from the heart. Love Bucket. Love Bucket is the collecting first Sunday of each month with the exception of July and August. We pass buckets to collect those loose change that may not seem a lot in your pockets, but it means a lot to the Love Bucket collection. Last year we had proceedings going to Staying Connected, Street Help, Gleaners, Love Nan, Kit Richardson Guestwood Camp, University Food Bank, Hiatus House, Adopt a Family, and Student Aid. And I believe there was approximately $1,200 collected last year.
The Love Nan program was started many years ago by Holly McLean in memory of her grandmother, who was always cold while undergoing treatment. It is continued through the work of many of our church members and others also. 2018 was a banner year, as your reports show. We are always grateful for any donations of wool or money to continue on this program.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay. I'm just going to give you a little bit of history of the Kit Richardson because she's been gone so long that a lot of you don't remember her. I do. She passed away in 1983. She had trained as a nurse in Ottawa, and her goals were severely challenged as she contacted tuberculosis, which damaged her spine. She did regain some portion of her health and spent her life with activities for others. When she died, she willed her body to science, extending her service to others. She donated $5,000 at the time of her death to be administered by the United Church Women to a deserving student studying in the field of science, social work, physiotherapy, or music. When the UCW was disbanded, a committee was formed to administer these funds under the guidance of the Outreach Committee of the official board. Our purpose remains the same: to assist students entering their second or subsequent years of a recognized Canadian university or college. Some changes have been made in the qualifications for the students, and now we recognize all fields of study. Her daughter contributes to the fund every year. Our church family, special events, some AOTS funds when the club disbanded, and the Love Bucket keep our fund solvent. We receive wonderful notes from these kids with phrases like, "Glad you remembered me. Education is so expensive." Many thanks to all who contribute, and we were able this year to assist 7 very worthy students. As a point of interest, when I was looking through the books, I found that the initial $5,000 earned $278 interest in the first year. That's a long time ago.
So I'm going to speak about the giving tree, which we put up every year around Christmas time. And the Giving Tree is a very special tree. It carries not just lights, but hats and mittens and socks to keep people warm. And this year, an amazing total of 193 items were donated to the tree. And as many of these items were for small children and babies, a majority of them went to Hiatus House. So 120 hats, mittens, and socks went to the mums and children at the shelter. And just as an aside, the shelter right now is running at 107% capacity last month, which means we do have women and children doubling up, and we also have some children and their mums in hotel rooms. We try not to turn women away. We do turn women away, sadly, but they are turned away to have support, so a social worker is in contact with them at all times, and if they are truly in an unsafe situation, they are taken care of immediately. 73 items were donated to the downtown mission, and you can imagine what this last week was like, so hats and mittens were certainly well needed at the downtown mission, and that's where many of the funds that our walkers are going to be raising will go to in the end of the month. So the Giving Tree will be up every year, we hope, because sadly, the need never goes away. I always say I wish we could do away with food banks and shelters and the Giving Tree, but unfortunately, our society has come to be, or certain parts of our society have come to be very dependent upon them. So the other area that we give is the Student Aid Fund, and again, this happens in December. The Student Aid Fund was set up in the 1950s when a member of our congregation wanted to go into the ministry, and it has helped, every year it has helped somebody to pursue their studies in the ministry and in more recent years in the mission field. So this past year in 2018, we supported a student minister, Janine Lunn, and she is from Belmont, Ontario. The parameters of our student aid fund are that they are to support someone initially from Harrow, the now defunct Essex Presbytery, or London Conference. So gradually, if you can think of a pebble going into the water, we just kind of move out from that pebble to find somebody. So Janine is actually an older person going back to school. She has a family and she's on a farm in Belmont, Ontario, and she's hoping to do her mission or her ministry in that area. This year we have two prospective candidates, and both are coming from the Atlantic School of Theology. We've just received their resumes, and our committee is reviewing that. So we will have money to give. And I'd also like to mention that while we don't just support ministers, we have supported the people who are going on the mission. So we've supported Darlene Sleeth in the past, and last year we were able to support Laura when she went to Africa. So that will conclude my report. Thank you.
Oh, Vanna. Check out her legs. So I'm here to talk about the food bank. The food bank started, our donations to the food bank started when, in 2010, the youth group was doing the 30-hour famine. And we decided we'd have a local response to that instead of, which was collecting food here for a month. And then Leslie said, why don't we just keep doing it? And I thought, really? They're going to give food every week? So Leslie's a little more optimistic than I, and sure enough, 14,000 pounds later, you keep giving. So what's interesting now about the food bank is the St. Vincent de Paul is having their annual meeting in Windsor this year. And members from that members of that group are coming here to Harrow to look at what we're doing because it's unique. We're the only, St. Vincent de Paul is a Catholic organization, but this is the only food bank that reaches out to different
religions, and different religions support this group. So they're coming to meet with, Leslie's going to be there, they're coming to meet with us, the Mennonite Church, the Gleaners, to find out what we are doing in Harrow that is so unique, and they're going to take a look at it because it is such a successful food bank, so that's kind of neat. And then the mission, we invited Ron Dunn to come and speak a few weeks ago, and we presented him a check for $750 and about 24 containers of polysporin that they were asking for. So from that came his invitation for the coldest night of the year. Now we have 15 walkers, and so far we've collected $2,400, I think is what I saw last night, with our goal being $3,000. So we're well on our way. Now I too have a donation sheet. If anyone wants to pledge me. So I work in a community mental health program for the hospital, and we share the same space as the mission. And I tell you, I was walking into work as the people who were leaving, going out into that cold over the last 2 days. And I was looking at those people thinking, this was not your plan. This was not your plan to have to use this. And I also looked at those people and I thought, how many of you would have died? It was over the last couple of nights if it wasn't for the mission. So if you can sponsor us, that would be great. And there's also an article that was in the Hero News that I have. They did a great job when we presented money to the mission and to the food bank. So it's also here.
There you go. And just a quick mention of the Apples for Outreach project. So we've been fortunate on our farm to have a cold storage, and we get apples in there in the fall. And every year at the end of the year, we decide to share with you. So we wanted to do an outreach project. This all started years ago when we had a grain grinder project, if anybody remembers Wally Finley getting that going. So we've done it every year, and are just so happy that we bring the apples, you guys bring the money, all the money goes into outreach and it goes into various projects. And then my apple storage gets empty, that's good, and end of season for us. So we're really pleased that that goes on.
Also this year, there was a Haiti mission project. John Blair coordinated this project. Our congregation supported this special project through the dinner held at the A1 restaurant in Essex. A donation of $1,311.26 from churches in Essex County supported the children at the Calabash Christian School in Haiti. And they want to thank you for your generous gifts. The Mission and Service Fund administered by the National Church is our largest single commitment. Approximately $30 million is raised annually through the United Churches from the coast to coast to support various needs and crises throughout Canada and around the world. At last year's annual meeting, our members committed themselves to raising $25,000 to support this fund. The amount raised was $23,464.28. I will move and second that the outreach presentation and the reports found on pages 21 to 25 in the 2018 annual report be accepted.
Carol has moved and seconded. Thank you, John. Discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. And as usual, then Carol's going to do this. As usual, at this time, we make a motion for to set our objective for 2019 for our mission and service. Carol?
So I would like to make a motion that we set the M&S object for 2019 at $25,000.
Jillian has seconded that. Discussion. Bill? Thank you. All those in favor of that? Thank you. Property committee, hymn, verse 3 of For the Fruit of all Creation. Next is our report from our property committee. Unfortunately, Greg Eiler was to give this report, and I believe Greg Harrison is stepping in. Thank you, Greg.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm really glad I'm not saying good afternoon, because we're moving along nicely. Thank you. Your property committee spends a lot of time working on this building, making repairs and improvements. In old buildings like this, there's always something that needs fixing or replacing. We also worry. We worry about whether the furnace will last another year. We worry about how much the repairs are going to cost, the water leak in the basement are going to cost also. But our scripture lesson today and the message from Reverend Darrow reminds us that we are not to worry about these things, but we still do. We are human and we fall short. We are blessed to have such a beautiful building to gather and worship in. We are blessed to be able to share it with other groups like the Guides, the Cub Scouts, and host community luncheons here. We've even had Elvis visit a time or two. It's a beautiful building that we are sitting in, but it isn't the church. As a committee, we try to remember this. If this building fell down tomorrow, Herald United would be just as strong after it fell as it was before. This building is a blessing to us, a gift from our forefathers and mothers, and a gift we give to each other. But it is a tool to help us build a better community, a place to meet, a place to worship. And the humble disciples on your property committee will be working to keep that tool ready to use, warm during the winter, cool during the summer, at least in some parts of the building, and dry when it rains. In addition to a little worrying, we also dream a little. We try to keep our dreams inexpensive, but they aren't always. This year, we're looking at replacing the remaining parts of the roof that needs it, and we'll also start investigating putting central air conditioning in the North Auditorium. At this time, I would like to move that the Property Committee report on page 26 be received.
I need someone to second that report. Glenn Gork, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor of receiving that report? Thank you. Report of the Finance Committee, I'm going to call on John Woodbridge for that.
Yes, I do the Finance Committee, but I also have to, when you go through the yearbook, you have to look at what outreach has really been doing. Last year, our goal for M&S was $25,000, and we raised $23,000, close to $500 worth, which is quite commendable. That puts us in about the top 10 of the old London Conference. So you look at the area and you see what this church can do, and we're among the better supporters of the M&S Fund. That is a significant achievement. But if you look on page 33, if you got it there, and on page 33 you see all the different listings of total revenue. And then Glenn has local, other sources. And down at the bottom, he has something called donations with an asterisk. And in the donation listing is the monies that were given mostly to outreach things. Now, one of those is capital fund. That doesn't get included. And there was, according to the previous page, last year we donated $10,400 to capital. And that's to help to pay for the roof. If you don't have the roof, then we have to find a big enough boat to turn over and make sure the hull is good enough that we can all gather under, or a barn. But you still have to fix the roof. Nobody likes to be in a rainy condition. So that we raised $10,400 for that. But if you subtract that from the other figure, that leaves $10,340 donated for our outreach program. You also heard about the knitted items. Well, if you read the knitting reports, that's 470 items. What's a hat worth? What's a scarf worth? What's a blanket worth? See, that figure is not in there. And so you start doing ballpark figures, I don't know. If 470 items, I think they're worth about $5,000. Probably more, but it's a conservative estimate. And then you hear that we brought in 1,270 pounds of food. What's a pound cost? I don't know, $2.50? If it's $2.50, then that's about $3,000 worth of food you brought in. That doesn't show up in dollar figures. So when you start rolling all those things that we've been doing, see a need, act to figure out how to support that need, then we take our M&S figure, and once again, you've just about doubled it in our outreach work, and that is the work of our church. So that doesn't show up in our budgets. It doesn't show up in, in the committee reports, but it does show up in the work of our church. So just to draw those things to you, I usually do this every year, but usually whatever you see for outreach, to M&S, that's generally what we double that going out of this building. Now, one big thing at the end of this year, of course, we all noticed, we all came to church on Sunday morning in January and went, we've got a balance. No brackets, no red numbers, no little negative sign. We have a balance. So we were able to start with that. But then again, we were down one salary of output. We didn't have to pay a salary for 7.5 months. So that did help the picture a little bit. But, it doesn't matter. We have what we have, and we have a balance. So that's a very positive thing to start the year. And I know the way this church reacts is that we will, a year from now, I'll probably be standing here saying the same thing. At least I hope so anyway. So on those notes, if you have any questions about the finances or the things of the year, I can answer those, or I'll try. Or I have Glenn here. He will definitely answer it.
Would you make a motion?
No, I'm just about to do that. So I'd like to make a motion now that the report of the financial statements as found on page 27 and 35 be accepted.
Someone to second that? Liz Chittle, thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the Finance Committee report? Thank you.
And thank you, Glenn, that you do an awesome job every year making it clear.
Yes, we do. Thank you, John. Just stay there. The next one's coming up. Thank you very much for all the hard work on that finance report. Glenn and John and everyone that's on that finance committee. That's always a hard one. And we do appreciate that and appreciate everyone's input in it and, of course, all your contributions. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We're going to move into new business. The nominating report. We had 4 people on the nominating committee, and John is going to give the report.
The nominating committee would like to thank Doug Murray, Eleanor Walker, and Brian Wood for serving on the official board, and they have all agreed to serve another term. They must really enjoy it. We would like to make a motion to nominate Carol Karshikoff to be a member of our official board, and we would like to make a motion to nominate Larry Sabby to the Board of Trustees.
So those are the 2 motions that came out of the nominating report. I need someone to second that motion. Greg Harrison, thank you. A discussion. Bill, we had a couple of people leaving the trustees, so they felt that that we needed another member, and so Larry Sabby has agreed to that. So all those in favor of that?
I was going to ask for volunteers. Anybody
Yes.
who'd like to volunteer to
Go
be a member of the board,
ahead,
we
John.
can put it under this motion. We have a lot of fun.
And John's asking for volunteers for the official board.
Next year.
You can see him after, while you have a little while to think about it.
I also have a form too.
Yes.
I'm feeling
So
very sad.
thank you. John has made the motion, that has been discussed, it has been seconded. All those in favor? Thank you.
About the official, the financial examiners, I have to apologize. I didn't contact Harvey Hollingsworth and Hollingshead and Doug Bowsley in advance. They have been our financial examiners, and they will be approached very shortly. I'll bring it up at the official board for that.
Thank you. The next one on our new business is the regional representatives. And as you know, this year, as of December 31st, we moved from a conference, which is just like the Essex County, Essex Presbytery, to a regional. And in Essex Presbytery, we sent members to the conference in London at the end of May. So this year, we are looking for regional representatives, and it was suggested by the, at our last presbytery meeting, that we keep the same ones, our representatives that went to presbytery, would they continue to go to the regional? Now, we understand there's a meeting coming up in May, and the people who covered that was John Woodbridge, Barry Mantle, and myself. John, was there another one that went? We usually took turns going with Reverend Darrell, and in the previous months, the couple of us went together. So I did not contact Barry, but I'm asking if you would. Okay. Anyone else that would like to be a representative? We need to open the floor for nominations. I have not contacted Barry. Pardon me? Darrell, can you speak to that? We're really kind of in a gray area with this regional. We're just not sure. You were to a meeting on Friday, or Wednesday.
Because it's a whole new, we're building a whole new structure, right? There's no presbytery anymore, there's no conference anymore, it's regions. The answer to every question is, it's a work in progress. Or it's like life, right? They're figuring it out. So when I ask how often we will meet and what the duties of representatives will be, we didn't really have straight answers. So I don't blame you for not turning me on and saying, yeah, let me do that. But as we learn more about it, we'll tell you.
So I hope everyone heard Darrell. It is a work in progress, this regional. We will discuss it at the board meeting about someone attending. I just know of the one meeting coming up, and Darrell will be going to, others probably as our minister. So we will work with that, work in progress. John touched on the financial examiners, and as you know, every year we look at the turkey supper and the pie tent, and we ask, are we going to continue with those two large fundraisers? And we ask you because you are the people who volunteer and work with the turkey dinner and the pie tent. And so we need a motion on the floor regarding that. Bill Shea has moved that we continue with the turkey supper and the pie tent. I need someone to second that. Marie Sellers, thank you. That means that both of you are willing to do something, right? So we're going to be calling on all of you. Discussion. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of continuing with the turkey supper and the pie tent? Thank you. Under budget, I'm going to call on Glenn and John. John.
On pages 36 and 37, we have the proposed budget, side by side with last year's budget and actual expenditures. And representing the official board, I would like to move that the budget as presented for the 2019 be accepted.
John has moved that the budget be accepted. I need someone to second that. Glenn, thank you. Discussion. Discussion.
The only changes in here, of course, basically deal with salaries, and we had a, we have to have a little increment that you have with salaries. If you don't do it every year, suddenly you end up in a catch-up situation, so that's what we have continued to do. Okay, the minister's salary no longer has the salary plus housing allowance. It's all been rolled in. This happened effective January the 1st. So I don't have my bulletin with me, but sometimes we make note of it because we have the manse sale. We take monies from that every month to help with the salary. So now it's all part of one salary.
Any other questions? All those in favor of receiving that budget for 2019? Thank you very much. Do we have any other business coming to the annual meeting? I thank all those who participated this morning, and I thank all those who put the reports together, wrote the reports. And I want to thank each one of our employees, Reverend Darrell, Lorene Chickas, and Larry Anderson, and Kathy and Bruce Woodowis for their hard work around this church, serving us as they always do. And we cannot thank you people enough. We are so appreciative that we have such quality people working with us. Now I need a motion to adjourn the annual meeting. Anita Gorick, thank you. Someone to second it? Leslie Huffman, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning? Yes. Let us sing together, May the God of Hope go with us, and I'll leave the rest to Darrell.